Greetings, Dungeon Delvers and fellow DMs, and welcome back to the DM's Den. The second episode that I ever put up on this channel was on managing big groups, and now that we are nearly a year into me managing a big group, now at 12 players, once a week for 2 hours, I thought I'd share with you a couple more things that I have learned on managing that large group. It should be noted that this is going to be a bit more casual than some of the other videos, because I'm just going to start talking and try to keep the points running. A couple things first before I get into the big one, which is encounters. It's very important, especially with younger players. My big group is 12 middle school age players, 2 hours once a week. It's very important that you place the onus on the players when you're teaching them the game to know what their characters can do. This is a big deal for casters. It's also a big deal as you get up in levels for all of the other classes. I've got a player that doesn't quite understand what Battlemaster is supposed to do, and what the different abilities are, and what superiority dice are, even though I've taught the concept several times. It's clear that they haven't been doing their homework. Yes, I give them homework. I have an online, digital classroom that they're all a part of, and I give them assignments so that they're learning what their characters can do, because they should be able to come in and know what to do, essentially. I mean, asking questions is always going to be a part of the game, and you as the DM have to answer and field those questions like a good teacher, because that's what you really are as a dungeon master. You're a storyteller and a teacher. But they need to kind of know what is what. They need to at least be aware of the different options that they have. That's one of the things that a player needs to do. You have to be responsible. It's player responsibility. Know what your character does. And also, get organized. Finally, stay focused. If you are focused on what's happening in the story, it almost doesn't matter how many of you there actually are. As long as you stay focused, you know what's up. But if you let yourself get distracted, then the fact that there are so many, it'll take a while to get back to your turn, and when it gets back to your turn, you won't know what's going on. So that's placing the onus on the players. Players, know what is going on. Focus on what's happening. Don't just disappear for a little bit and be like, I'll be back when my turn is up. That's one, it's rude. And two, you're not going to understand what's happening, because everything continually changes for every person's turn. Here's the big thing that I've learned. Encounters can be insane if you don't approach them the right way. When we have a large group of players, and in my case they're all level 4 now, when you want to raise their difficulty, you recognize that if I had 6 of them, all level 4, CR4, a couple CR4 monsters would be an appropriate challenge. When there are 12 of them, a couple CR4 monsters are easy. They get smashed, crushed completely. So the initial response for a DM is to add on more enemies. Well, let's just increase the number that I throw at them. That'll still be appropriate, right? In terms of difficulty, yes. In terms of time management, no. And that's because you are dealing with initiative. The initiative order is going to be tough already. And that's assuming you don't even have any NPCs yet. Every time you roll initiative, you have 12 numbers to deal with. And in terms of dealing with numbers, I suggest going from the top down. So you look for the 20 to 25s, anybody who rolled over, you got the natural 20s in there too. 15 to 20, 10 to 15, you go in 5s. And that's easier for our brains, so I can chunk, okay, the couple that had at the top, or order them. Then the couple in the middle, order them. And then further down the line. And you can add in your NPCs, or the monsters, or both of those, and get them into the initiative order. But the more monsters you have, the more initiatives you have to deal with. Now you can streamline this a number of different ways. I like to take the monster types, so all the undead that I have. If I have a lot of undead on the board, or if I've described a lot of undead in the turn order, they all have one initiative. It's all the same initiative. So all the bad guys go at the same time, essentially. It allows the players this idea of moving around the strategy, and the players have their turn, and then the bad guys have their turn, and then the players have their turn. And it tends to help the flow a bit. So they deal with the damage, and then the damage hits, and then they deal with it, and then it hits. That tends to be better. That can be a little bit difficult if you have multiple types of enemies. So if you have an undead horde and then a couple goblins, maybe they should have their own initiative, but then you have another number to deal with. Then you also have NPCs. Now, in a group of 12, 10, 12, probably don't need an NPC, or if you do, you use them as a guide only, so they're mostly non-combatants, which means they don't have to be in the initiative order. Unless you want them in there so they can run away, or maybe do a spell, or help out in some non-combative but tactical way. Or if they're under threat. If they're under threat, they have to be in the initiative order, and they have to be able to be given a moment to move, a moment to get out of there, or do something to save their skin. And the players have to then have the incentive to go help them. They can always be used as a hook. But if you have combative NPCs, like combat NPCs, in a large group, in my case, I do have a couple NPCs. In fact, right now, one just died, but I have 3 plus the 12 players. If everyone attends each session, it's 15 numbers to deal with. I have NPCs that have kind of their own agendas. So, sometimes it's appropriate for them to come into combat, and I have their initiative orders on the side. But they're also doing other things, perhaps, during combat. Sometimes, maybe like one triggers a trap, they're the center of the initiative order, and I have to have their number clear and present so that the players also know, hey, they're under threat, that's when they go, that's when the monsters go, we need to do something before the monsters kill our friend. Okay? So it's just be aware of how many numbers you have rolling at a time. A big way to fix that is taking this recommendation. Anytime you have a monster encounter, have a maximum of 3. Preferably 1 or 2, maximum of 3. And when I say 3, I mean 1 really big bad guy and 2 flunkies, essentially. And they can serve different roles. You could have one that's an archer, so you're forcing melee to dodge, essentially, arrows, and you're forcing ranged to attack the ranged guy, or vice versa. And you could have a caster. Now you have a spell element, a magic element, and you have a really big burly melee guy. I don't know. But you can change up the roles with 3. Whereas when you get bigger than that, now you're dealing with too many numbers and just too much to manage. Especially if you're using miniatures like we do for visual references, it's too much to manage on the board. So give them all the same initiative count, and do up to 3 for your big bad guys. With the numbers that you have for large groups, the best course of action is to throw something really big at them. Something that forces them to go, whoa, we're dead unless we work together. So they have to strategize. They have to work as a team. Throw a Tarrasque in their faces. Maybe. But you have to manage the CR appropriately. If you have 6 level 4 characters, CR 4, it's probably okay. If you have 12 level 4 characters, CR 8 may not be high enough. 9, maybe 10. And it's okay to give them something that might be a big deal. Because they have so many options with 12 players, 10 players. It's important for them to feel the challenge. It's important for them to be tactical and strategize and work together and cooperate. Because yes, if they just left the paladin on his own, he's going to get eaten. So force them to kind of work together. Give them something big. Why do this? It focuses their attention on strategy, tactics, and helping each other. It gives you 1 extra number to work with instead of 3 or more. And it really ups the danger amount. It creates a more dynamic battle landscape. Because, when you're adventuring, yes, you do run into swarms of stuff, and sometimes swarms are very helpful and very effective. But when you're adventuring, and you venture into a cave of something, you wouldn't find a bunch of little things. You'd find one really big thing, and then you fight it. And I'm very appreciative of that. When it comes to CR as well, you don't want to cause a TBK, at least not intentionally. If they mess up, and to me that's on them. But the idea is to increase the challenge. Make it worth their while. So you could double up the CR. You could take a monster that would be like CR 4 or 5 and increase some of its abilities. Give it a multi-attack. If it has a multi-attack, give it 3 attacks. Maybe give it another acceleration, click here, that would make it a little bit more dangerous, more appropriate for that number of players. Okay? I have also used NPCs here and there as sort of cannon fodder to sort of demonstrate the danger of a monster before the players get full into it. Like it comes in far away, obliterates a contingent of 10 guards, and then the players can go, oh, okay, we have to work together. All right, you there, we got a minute, let's strategize, blah, 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 and it's really cool. And that's important. You want to get them to respect the challenge, but not become overwhelmed by it. And then when it comes to rewards, when you have so many players, you run into an issue of division. When you defeat a monster, and you have the pool of experience, and then you divide it amongst the players, sometimes with a large group, the amount of experience that you would have received is negligible. Now, for me, if it gets past a certain threshold, I just stop it. I kind of cap it at a certain amount so that everybody always gets something, and it's not just, you get 5 experience points, congratulations, yay. 1, I didn't give them a hard enough CR if that's all they got, and 2, that's not very much fun. They also get experience for being there, being present in the session. They get experience for acting in character, so they get role-playing experience. Also, they can get treasure. They can get hoards. They can find cool things like little trinkets here and there. They can find new weaponry. They could find a sentient item. They could find potions. They could find special ingredients that maybe the alchemist shop back in town is in dire need of, and they'll reward them with this awesome potion down the line. You can create investment opportunities, essentially. Also, I have special weapons in my campaigns that are not quite legacy weapons because they're not really the same build as what legacy weapons used to be, but they are special weapons that level up. They gain experience each time you use them, a la Skyrim, I guess, and as they gain more levels, you gain more benefits in the weapon. So the weapon is semi-sentient in the sense that it grows, which is kind of cool. You can think of all these cool things. You can get a boon from a character, like a minor boon, not the boons from the player's handbook that are reserved for people level 20 or above. Not going there. I mean like a minor boon. Like, hey, you got an HP increase of 5 from this special artifact that you found. You can now have an ally based on maybe you saved someone from this Tarask attack or Umber Hulk attack, and now they pledged a life debt to you, and they'll help you if you ever come back to town. There are other benefits than just straight experience. Can you have encounters where there are multiple enemies, maybe even the same number of enemies as the number of players? Yeah, you totally can. But don't make it a normal thing. A regular thing should be you see something big, and we have to use the numbers that we have to create success. But, well, here's an idea. If you had like shadow entities that are the shadow copies of every person in the party, and they had the same initiative as each person in the party. So everybody rolls initiative, and they don't see anything, and then shadow clones of themselves show up in front of them and start fighting them, and now they have to roll a contested dexterity throw at the beginning of their turns to see whether they go or the clone goes before them. I'm totally using that. So let's recap real fast. Make sure players are being responsible. They got to know what they can do, know what their spells do for the most part. You're still the resource and you're still helpful for them, but put some onus on them to do some reading, do some research, and make sure they know how their players work, how their characters' powers work. All very important. Limit the number of NPCs you have so that you have less to manage when combat starts. Whew! You got enough numbers to worry about. Keep enemy type as the same initiative number. So all the zombies go at the same time, all the goblins go at the same time. That way you don't have zombie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Zombie 1 goes, zombie 2 goes, then you guys go, then zombie 3 goes, and then zombie 4 goes, now you go, zombie 5, blah, blah, you get the idea. If you're going to have major encounters, have it with major melee or a caster, major melee and an archer and a caster, or major caster and 2 melee brothers, or just one really big thing with an increased CR so that it's scary and dynamic and powerful and, oh god, we're all going to die, but they end up succeeding. And they can feel the worth behind such an epic encounter. Remember that rewards don't have to be just straight experience, especially if with large groups they won't receive nearly as much combat experience with a decent-sized enemy. You can give them other rewards like gold, platinum, items, allies, artifacts, all these A words, trinkets, special plot hooks, information. There are other ways to reward players. And as a quick aside, going back to giving them a really big monster, I gave them a dragon wormling. It was a young dragon, a young blue dragon with some modifications made. Customization is always fine. And when they saw it, I kid you not, one of them went, "We're all gonna die. We are all gonna die right now." And were it not for the entity that summoned the dragon turning to them and saying, "Let's see if you can work together," I don't know if they would have survived. And that's a big thing, especially as my note about young players. Young players, just by the sake of being young, many are very self-centered. That's not an insult. It's mentally. Where they are, it's kind of about me. It's about me. So when they fight, they think they should take it all on by themselves and not recognizing that it's a team effort. This is a thing that I constantly reinforce in my groups. It's a team effort. You've got to work together. All these things are built, encounters are built to be fought as a team, to be conquered as a team. So if you give them big monstrous enemies that on their own they should be terrified of, they might be more inclined to fight as a team to succeed, which will make them be better team players later. That's all for now. May your swords be sharp, your magic be potent, and your Umber Hulk cave empty? Bye now. Thanks everybody for tuning in to today's episode of the DM's Den. If you are on the Facebook of Faces, you can find that link right here. You can also check me out on Twitter. And I'm also running a Patreon if you have some platinum that you want to get rid of. It's always appreciated. If you want to see other videos of my stupid face, it is also above the fire. Anywho, keep those swords away from small children. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Why am I in my temple gi? It's cold up here. It's cold up here, and this is warm and it's tough. It also smells like fire, so it's awesome.